What's happening, mate?
How do you mean?
Well, it's not exactly kicking off, is it?
Oh no, it never does. To 8 o'clock!
Sets up Larsson here. Larsson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly. How about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson. And Rodgers! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!
Good evening and welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. I'm JP and joining me in this Thursday chat is my good man, Mr. Alan Stirling and Mark. Well, Mark, obviously you've not been on with myself since last week, mate. First of all, how have you been? And it's good to see you again, pal.
Thanks, JP. Good to be on. Good to see yourself and Alan. Good to be on the show with you. And all the viewers, I've been watching the show during the week now. I love looking at the comments and interacting with the viewers and seeing the comments. It makes the show, and I enjoy doing it when I'm on the show as well. So I've been good, and I've not been on since last week. What's been happening? Anything? Have I missed anything?
It's been
nothing happened Saturday. International weekend. Boring. Yeah,
there was no football at the weekend, mate. So no same old boring on the Celtic front, but. No, a man that likes to spread the love also. Big Al, how are you, mate? It's good to see you.
Aye, pretty good. I mean, JP earlier, we had a doubles match at badminton with Peter Lowell and Michael Nicholson, so we ended up paying for the port as well. You know what I mean? We were trying to haggle with the guy. The guy wanted a tenner an hour and they're trying to whip out with the gingies, so...
They tried to lowball the fee, didn't they?
Aye, so... great to be back on. Good to see Mark again, but and yourself, obviously, JP. But speak to you all the time. I hope everyone's well, and I just another day in this movement towards kind of change. Obviously, we'll touch on it later, but as is our podcast, well represented last night. We were good man Ryan, and probably wore a nice special hoodie for that occasion.
I had the one on me, him and Liam Scales.
So we're glad to be kind of part of this movement, and we just kind of see what happens from now on. But again, hope you guys are well, and I hope everyone's well.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. Obviously, the viewers, you guys that are tuning in with us across the platforms. Theo Isaac, good job, he says. Ryan's in again tonight. He says, evening, lads. Good meeting last night regarding the fan movement. Hopefully, the team get back to winning ways also on Sunday with a good performance, as always. Hail, JP, Alan, Mark, and the chat. George is joining us also. All right, boys, tomorrow's press conference will be popular, but winning ways on Sunday. We've got Martin Flanagan in with us. He said, evening lads, about time we all came together. This bad situation at the club, it's like it's just happened overnight. The way the board have been gone for years. The Killie away and very toxic, obviously. Aye, it is toxic at the moment, but again, some of that's self-inflicted as well though. Ryan T, hail lads. What a name for a YouTube page that is, man. The Slabbering Cabbage, hail Rebels, there we go. There's a good bit of slabbering on here on a Monday night, man. You should join us. Hope you watch the show regularly. P. McLaughlin, evening. Good evening to yourself. And Sparrow says, I'm excited for what the future holds. So am I. I'm dying for Ryan to tell us what he had on at that meeting that Alan's touched on there, Mark, last night. It'd be quite interesting about the wee man wore for his attire walking into that place.
flux capacitor as well when you're in your car. So it just on the Slavic cabbage. Remember we had the Terry Vegetables. I seen one the other night. Aye, no, Neil Kilmarnock.
Neil Quam. He always, there he's confirmed it for his lads. It was a pink salmon hoodie as always. There we go. That's probably just so they could see who he was because he's tiny. Just see this wee pink hoodie floating about in the crowd. There's Ryan. But yes, Mark, obviously there was a fan meeting last night, mate, held in Gracie's Bar. Obviously I think it's over the last 3-4 days, maybe there's been about nearly 40,000 fans or came together, signed this article and bit of paper that's going round for, this demand for change and in terms of action against the board and members of the board who they're basically deemed not fit for purpose anymore with the fan base, mate. In terms of your own thoughts, mate, and what's transpired there, where's your head at with this?
Yeah, as you were saying to me before the show, JP, I remember the Celts for Change movement in the 90s, and how effective and crucial that was in history in the club,
Mm-hmm.
We were in a dire situation in those times and the fans came together. And I remember it myself, I was a young lad at the time, but it was only a kind of, it wasn't a small pocket of the support, it was a lot of the support, but then social media wasn't around in those days, communication wasn't available as readily as it is just now. So, but it was, again, meetings, the fans got together, understood that the club's ownership wasn't taking the club in the right direction, far from it at that time. The club in a real bad way, on and off the park, a derelict stadium, poor team finishing 5th in the league, things like that. So it was desperate, and then it came to the point that we nearly went out of existence. So we had to do something. Thankfully, the supporters did, and they got the backing for the majority of the support at that time, but maybe no just in the way that we could communicate it because of the way that we had to communicate then. So seeing this now it's a bit strange, because we've been successful to an extent, but it's been kind of on the kind of back burner for a wee while now, innit? So this isn't just an overnight reaction to the statement getting released on Saturday. This has been something that the fans have been kind of questioning for quite a wee bit of time now. Just the how the leadership is. I think the main thing for me and I mentioned the last time I was on, is communication. Just how the board communicate with the support. And that's where I think back to the COVID season, when we were in a bit of a situation just before Christmas and the fans were questioning the manager and the team, and the board's reaction at that time was quite dismissive. The communication was poor, and it continued with that season as it was, and we know how that ended up. So maybe it wasn't so much the fact that season was a bomb scare, but it was the attitude of the board at that time with the communication. And then there is the continuous kind of failures in Europe. And when I say Europe, it's the qualifications to the Champions League. Because we have, as a Champions League club, made some progression. And maybe that is why the frustrations are heightened at the moment, because of the progression we made last season, especially competing with a team like Munich. But when you're going out to Almaty's, when you're going out to Ferencváros, Cluj, AEK Athens, Midtjylland, consistently, that's just it isn't acceptable. And again, the board could address this as we went year on year. They could have put communication out to the supporters. They could have outlined plans for a couple of seasons ahead and how we would try and avoid these Champions League qualifications. Sometimes it is pressure, sometimes it is just these games, but over the course of the last 10 years, I think, is it 7 out of 9?
Yeah,
that we've
7 out of 9.
qualified for. That's it's kind of, and again for me, it's just the communication with the board. It's the unwillingness to communicate, and then Saturday was kind of proof of that. Not so much the content of the statement. I think they try to address some issues, but the effort, the way it was designed, the way it was cascaded. A Saturday night, 9 o'clock. Not even giving the fans a heads up to tell them this is an important piece of communication that we want to try and give the support for the concerns that they've raised recently. However, to be fair to the support, they've quickly got themselves together, and they had the meeting last night. So I read the minutes of the meeting and went through what they could to discuss everything that they can and the actions they can take with regards to the leadership at the club and what they can do. And I see that they've planned to have the 12-minute kind of walk in to the stadium on Sunday. I'm not sure exactly how that will be planned and the effect that they're hoping that will have, but it will bring attention to the situation. And I think that's the kind of the key to start with, to just bring attention, to force the board to communicate in any way that they can, or ultimately, try and get them removed. Do I believe that could be the end game and should be the end game? I'm not so sure myself. However, I'm behind the support. If the majority of the support want to make a difference here, you've got to go with it, because that's what happened in the 90s. You've got they mentioned something at the meeting last night as well about fans not being divisive, and I think that's really important here. I think every Celtic fan's entitled to their opinion, whether you back the board, whether you want them out, whether you maybe want just change with the same board. Take everybody's opinion on board because it's all valid, but I'll go with the majority, because I've got to, even if I don't agree with them, that's the time and effort that they're taking to get together. Was it 38,000 signatures you were saying earlier on?
Yeah, well, I think it's now from yesterday to today. I think I'm just over 40,000, just over 40,000 mark now. Yeah.
So you've got to go with the majority in that respect, because they're looking to change. I'd like to see more kind of plans, what the future will look like, what the kind of the ownership model would look like, who they could propose. Is it foreign investment? Is it fan-owned club runnings? And the structure of the club, what they intend to plan with that would maybe give us a bit more insight to how the club could expand, what areas of revenue that they could increase, what opportunities that we can maximise. So that would be kind of, and I think that will come as we go, but I think they've had to react just now and get together and have the meeting last night so they can get the ball rolling with this. And it probably will be sustained, I appreciate we're top of the league. We've not conceded a goal this season, and we could be potentially further ahead in the league come the end of the weekend. But I think that the fans mean business this time. It's not just a few mutterings. It's not just a few discontented supporters. They want answers, and hopefully through anything else with the pressure that will be applied, they'll get some sort of answers. The board will need to speak in some capacity or communicate, or it will just continue until they do get removed. So that's where I'm with it just now.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. For anybody that was listening to Mark there and kind of wondered what Mark was talking about the 12-minute thing, I'll put it up for you just now. And if anybody can't read it, I'll be happy to read it out for you. So this is basically one of the first actions that's going to be happening and taking place as we now gather back into the football and the domestic campaign. So as you can see at the top, it says the 12 minutes without the 12 man, basically. So it says at Sunday's match versus Kilmarnock, Celtic's 12 man will enter the stadium on the 12th minute to remind the Celtic FC board that it exists. This bold and vocal protest follows the recent open letter by 420 signatories, which the board have failed to respond to. A consultation meeting with these signatories, as a collective of fans, we wish no detriment to the team, but believe necessary steps must be taken to demonstrate our discontent and remind the board that football is nothing without the fans. Once we enter the stand, the team will receive vociferous backing. So, Alan, obviously Mark touches on that there, mate, in terms of the 12-minute thing. I've read that out now. Looking at that, mate, you can only think that this is a start of things to now really start taking place match after match after match, because as Mark highlights quite a couple of times there in his wee statement there, that, we've not heard anything. The board have been totally silent. I think there's a countdown going on. It's well over 1,000 days now. That we're now sitting here and we've not heard anything from the board. The statement that was put out, Mark's referring to on the Saturday night, it just looks as if it's been AI generated, mate, as if a computer or a wee boy at 8-year-old sat in his room and wrote that and sent it out to the fans as if, right, This is why, you know, every excuse under the sun. But certainly from the meeting last night, from what we hear and the information we were given by Ryan, it looks as if this is certainly going to take serious momentum.
This is a small step. This is the first of many small steps. This is going to go on for a long, long time, and it has to. There has to be change. I've said it for a long time now. I think that statement on Saturday night at 8:41, as I said yesterday in the pod, that was just crazy, and that was the final straw. That was just that is the icing on the cake to just show how ignorant and how disingenuous this board and hierarchy are towards the fans. It's simply not acceptable, and we've spoke about it kind of for a few years now, and we've said that we never want anything to kind of impact the first 11 or the squad. We don't want that, but we need to look at the bigger picture here. We need change. It needs to be change. We can't continue on in this manner. The way that the football recruitment is operating, maybe the business, you look at business terms, that we're highly profitable, but the investment, the way that we're going about kind of recruiting players, it's just far from acceptable. We need to be modernised to kind of step into modern day football. It's just simply not acceptable. And as I say, I was never one to say I would want kind of protest or anything, but now it's got to the stage that I think we need to look at the bigger picture. We can't simply just sit back and let this continue to happen, because if we continue to let this happen, then, as I says to you guys before we come on live, all it takes is us not to be prepared maybe next year in the likes of Rangers or Hearts to get their act together, and that means that we're going to kind of lose a league, we're going to lose cups, we're going to step back a few paces, etc. So we need to nip this in the bud right away. This is the biggest movement, maybe because of social media in comparison to the 90s, but this is the biggest movement that probably we've ever seen at Celtic just now. I think when you look back at the 90s, you didn't have kind of things like social media, email, text message, etc. So you had to rely on kind of postman Pat and the second class post to kind of get things across. So this is now, you see, this is a massive, massive movement, and there's no doubt about it that this is going to carry on and on and on until we get that change that's so needed and desired for the club, because these guys behind the scene are no fit for purpose. They might be able to run a business fantastically well, but we might be a business, but first of all, we're a football club. We want to see that in the pitch, and it's simply unacceptable for us to just go, we'll get that in the bank. But we can't do that because of UEFA. We'll blame such and such. We'll blame the media. We'll blame the fans, and then we'll get that wee dig in about maybe we're rivals, Rangers doing such and such. It's simply, the mind boggles. It's just baffling how disingenuous this board is towards the fan base. It needs change, and I've seen some comments saying that you're not going to change it with that. This is the first step. This is where we go from here. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, but we need to do this for the good of the club in the long term. There's simply no other way, and the whole fan base is behind us now, and we need to make sure that we get change in the long term.
Yeah, just as you were chatting there, Alan, thank you very much to BMax74 for your kindly donation of £10. We fully appreciate that, mate. Hail, hail, and God bless you, pal. Mark, Alan is talking about we need change and things, you know, and I gave my thoughts on Monday night, mate. You were tuning in, I seen you in the comments, and obviously what I think what I want to see is a Celtic fan changing in terms of the methods and the way we do things and the speed of process and things get happening and being proactive rather than reactive in certain scenarios, like selling Kyogo. We never had anybody else in. You go back to Big Ange. We never let Juranovic go before Alistair Johnson was signed, so it can be done. It's been demonstrated before. There's just a quick example of how that works.
Yeah.
You look at Adam, he does let go. Now, Brendan Rodgers has obviously been undermined somewhere along the lines. Or us as a fan base have been seriously gaslighted, because we were told from Brendan Adam Ida wouldn't be allowed to leave until another striker was coming in. Now, whether that means the hierarchy or that put all their eggs into the one basket, and they thought they were getting Kasper Dolberg across the line. But then after the window closes, that doesn't materialise. They don't get Dolberg. Late in the transfer window, it comes to like that Kelechi Iheanacho might be a possibility for the football club, and everybody's thinking, here we go, right, okay. And then we hear about him getting released from his contract. He had a final year to go at Sevilla. He gets released from that. You then look at he signs, I think it's the next day, he signs at dinner time-ish. So he's come in. But there's not been a notification as to what happened, what went wrong with the Dolberg. You're hearing snippets from guys like Stephen McGowan and Mark Guidi, even on Go Radio, chatting about how they've heard, and they've got informed opinions of Celtic knowing that it was going to take around about €7-8 million to have a conversation with Anderlecht regarding Kasper Dolberg. And by the way, this was earlier in the summer window, so this wasn't even on the last days of the window. But then you're hearing Celtic approached them with a £4 million bid. And you're kind of, us as fans are looking at that going, well, what are you doing? Because you're not going to get anywhere with that now. You know that's going to get rubbished out, and you're going to have to go back to the drawing boards, start again. But then you go for that, right into the statement that they've released, mate, and they're just barefaced lies to us. You know, they're telling us about you. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was reading, the bit about UEFA.
Yeah.
Now, you've got to have a 60 million deficit. Celtic have made profit the last 2 seasons. I think they're 34.5 million quid in profit this year. Last year was like 12 million quid in profit. They've got a net profit. They've not even got anywhere near a deficit. So that's built up over a number of seasons. Is it every 3 years or something? It's got to be like 60 million quid. You've got to be in arrears. Celtic are nowhere near that. So why have the club then come out and addressed that as an excuse, you know, in terms of, oh, by the way, it was that. But then they go on, they don't just stop there, they go on again with more lies and say, well, it's down to fans and it's down to the social media, it's down to the actual media themselves. So they start putting out, you know, things that are at fault. Not once, mate, has any of them took any accountability for, look, I'm really sorry, we got this wrong. We tried a certain approach, and I think that more than anything, Mark, in my understanding, has put the Celtic fans right on the back burner and made the Celtic fans furious. And that's why, that's a big reason why we're seeing, obviously, this movement now.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think, obviously, the movement has been started because of the statement. And just the manner and the things I was talking about earlier on, the time of release, the content. Some of the content I can take, but it's the lack of clarity again. It's the lack of communication. It's the lack of in-depth kind of detail. And I appreciate they can't divulge certain aspects of transfer windows, although they did say in the statement that they're looking at ways to clarify transfer windows after the close in more detail. But whether or not they follow that up, well, they've still not followed that up. So I don't know if they're going to take time to do that. But then that would maybe help the fans understand the kind of ins and outs. And again, I appreciate that they are restricted in what they can't release their strategy and stuff like that. However, going back to the situation with the Iheanacho getting signed the day after the transfer window, we should never be in that situation. With the resources that we do have, we should not be selling a main striker and then waiting till the transfer window's closed to then sign a free transfer. I know technically he was still with a club and he had to get released, but it's just not a situation that we should be in any capacity that way. So that's, although that's yet to be seen with that signing, it could turn out to be really, really good. It could be a bit of a masterstroke, but we need to wait and see. But it's still. Do
you think it puts people off as though, Mark, in terms of, you look at the Jacob Broom handling, you know, it was 5 million, and then we end up having to pay that now for Sebastian Tinecki. And I'm not saying anything about Sebastian Tinecki. Listen, I wish the guy all the best. I hope he's a belter. But what I meant is the way they deal it. You know, they put in a bid for 1.65 million, then they go to like 2.3 in euros or whatever it is. That's never ever going to. It's never going to cut the mustard there. So do you think it makes do you think it starts to make that side of the business look really silly?
So again, I don't know, because we don't get enough information. So with regards to the media, they did put in the statement not to believe the media, right? So that's one thing. But then give us a wee bit more to that, why we shouldn't believe the media. So the media for me are not to be trusted in any capacity at all. And I would be very mindful of taking what the media say as read. For me at this time as well, be wary of the media coming into the Celtic situation and manipulating it, because they're no Celtic fans. So just be careful for what you use against the club. However, it is the club's responsibility to then refute these allegations from the media. And whether they're true or whether they're not, give the fans the clarity with regards to these situations. Because you've now got journalists, and I know some of them will be using this to try and unsettle Celtic and for the benefit of other teams. So we've got to be really mindful here, because this is what we're doing. We're using this information to go at the board. Okay, is it 100% clarified? But then that's what we go at the board with. Give us the information so that the fans don't need to take information from journalists that might have anti-Celtic agendas, usually do, always have done, and we're using it against their own club to maybe cause disruption that they want. So, but that's where the club can come out and just say, look, this particular deal, we couldn't go the other side of it as well. So the likes of the Taneki being available for $2.5 million for a championship clubs, he might have been a third or fourth choice. And that's where we can. We knew he was available for 2.5 at that point, but we're trying to get our first and second choices in. And then we can't get these signings. We don't get the Champions League, so we need to revert to a third or fourth. We can't exactly come out after the transfer window shuts and goes, he was our fourth choice. That's how we've overpaid for him. That doesn't do any service with regards to our future transfer dealings in the player himself.
See with the media, Mark. See with the media, you're saying that I could definitely get on board with what you're saying if this was a one-off. My issue being is that this isn't a one-off. I could maybe say, all right, maybe the media will make that up a bit, but this is now been the likes of Kyogo, they've not replaced. The transfer dealings have been absolutely amateur. This has been Kuhn that's not been replaced straight away. This has now been the manager comes out and says we can't let the likes of Telio go, Yang go, Ida. This is time and time and time again. If it was a one-off, then I would maybe go, the media might be something to do with it, but this is time and time again. There's a common denominator here. It's a hierarchy at Celtic, and for them to blame the media, I just think that's even more.
I think that's where Mark's actually, he's kind of spot on as well when he says there, the club, that's up to the club then to come out and refute these allegations, but that's the thing, we're not hearing anything, we're not getting anything at all. This is what I'm saying. So I reckon as well, if the club had anything really substantial in terms of we know the media are telling lies or we know this is nonsense, why not just come out and why let the media ridicule them? Why not come out and do the same? And obviously, Mark, you might have a better idea there, but in terms of the media themselves, if they're making if all their stories are all made up, why would the club not then fight back through their media? Because every club, yourself, way pressers and everything else, every club's got their own. They've got relationships with guys in the media. There'll be certain things the media withhold until things are nearly done, and then they'll maybe put it out. Or they'll put feelers out regarding players' agents and stuff like that. I know that. So if the club feel that strongly to put it out in a Celtic statement to their fans and telling us it's nonsense, then why would the club no then come forward and say why it's nonsense?
Yeah. So that's my point. It's about so I just wouldn't trust the media anyway, because the media on board, they don't want to change the Celtic board for the benefit of Celtic. They're just wanting to get the biggest hits on their news stories that they can get. So I would just be mindful of that. However, that's where the club's responsibility is to manage that because it can create divisiveness, it can create anger within the support. So they've done that as well with the statement. So that's what they need to address with these stories coming out. So these stories might be true, but they might be run of the mill with football clubs. But it's our information it's getting put out in the public. So that's where it might be difficult for them to refute it. But then it could be a case of We these are our third and fourth targets, and we've went for them later in the window because we couldn't get our initial targets. But then that's what they could explain to the support, not the players individually, but the process of how we do try to go for these players, the quality of player that we've tried to go for. We've maybe tried to go for a 9 or 10 million pound player, but at that time it wasn't available to go for his club. They were waiting for another player to come in, because all these things are relevant to the transfer situation, but it's the lack of any clarity around the situation for the support. So we're left to take the scraps for the media and then kind of jump on what we can, which is it's not healthy for anybody, because it's painting the club in a bad light. They're not coming out to defend themselves. The fans that's the only information the fans are having to go on, and the media are using it because they know that it will create fraction. They will get more hits, and it's a popular story. So it's to kind of negotiate that, but the board have to come and address it in some capacity to stop what's happening, because it could drive a wedge between the team in the park and the fans themselves. So that's what I've got concern about. But for me, it's the club that's got to kind of address these things.
Yeah. That's the thing ultimately, Alan, isn't it? The fact that we're not getting anything at all. Like, we don't know what players Celtic went for. We're only getting, as Mark says, we're getting fed snippets from the media. It's only, you could maybe say your top media guys like your Romanos and Mark Kendrys and stuff. They've confirmed that Casper Dolberg was definitely for Celtic. But then you start hearing the snippets that you're getting in terms of, other media channels in terms of Celtic have went in with a £4 million bid, then it was a £6 million bid. Then they were happy to agree. But by that point, it was too late, because then Ajax had come back in. I mean, that happens. He's never come into Celtic anyway, because Ajax have got a bigger, a bigger pot that they can, play with and stuff. So we don't know ultimately what Celtic were doing. But do you think that's where the frustration comes from, Alan? Because, and as Mark says, I know there's legalities against it. They can't tell us everything. But it's the fact that we've not heard anything. I think that's the most infuriating, isn't it?
I've not told us anything. That statement, again, it was just so evasive. There was nothing kind of concrete or in particular that they come out with information that answered any questions whatsoever. Instead of that statement, they would as well just publish in a Wales Wally book. It would have been just as much information in that. But you look, there was just one thing I thought of there when we mentioned the media. They blamed the media, right? But there's one thing we're forgetting there as well. There was the sporting director, the Go Ahead Eagles, publicly come out and said the way that Celtic are doing business was embarrassing, wasn't it? He publicly come out and said that. That's not the media. That's somebody that Celtic will try to buy a player for another club, and their sporting directors come out and says the way basically
I
Celtic.
think that was it not the Go Ahead Eagles boy for the Jacob Brown deal?
Aye, that's what I'm saying. So he's come out and basically labelled the way Celtic do business was amateur. They says that Rangers went and got Ant-Man. That was done in a day or two, no hassles. The way that our board, our hierarchy, our recruitment team, and this is a professional football club in Holland. This is another club that's saying this, not the media. They're coming out and lambasting the way that Celtic are doing business. So for me, that just shows across the whole of kind of Europe that's embarrassing for us. Like, if we go and try and do business with any club after they're hearing that it just sounds so amateur, and it just with the walkouts as well. I know that it can be. There's a lot of people saying that it can be detrimental to the team. I think first of all that what the recruitment team and what the board have done just now is detrimental to the team, because we have now got one or two maybe very unhappy players that are at the club. We've got a far weaker squad than we had last year. We've got an unhappy fan base, so that's at the detriment and that's at the blame of the hierarchy. That is so what Celtic fans might do could affect how the team performs, could affect certain results. But I'll tell you something, it will definitely affect performances and results, the way that the board and the hierarchy have left our squad and first 11. You've got Dyson Maida there. We've no idea until we'll see him at the weekend or the following week how this is going to impact him. How we've seen his performances have kind of dropped off quite a bit. The squad is a hell of a lot weaker. So we could possibly, the walkout can affect the team, but definitely what the hierarchy have done, that is going to affect the team. So for me, I think they're kind of masters of their own destruction just now, and the Celtic board with that statement are just trying to blame everybody else apart from themselves. And they need to, as you said earlier, JP, they need to take a bit of ownership there, because they have left us in such a lot of problems ongoing behind the scenes. And if the Celtic fans come out and protest that, you can't exactly go, oh, it's the Celtic fans' fault because we've dropped points, etc. I think fundamentally and primarily, you look at where it started, and that's the recruitment and the lack of kind of keeping players happy when you've promised the likes of kind of Maida, whether it be Yang, etc., that they were going to get moves, and that's not happened. You never want a football club with unhappy kind of players there, no matter how much they add to the team. You want a replacement, and the players kind of moved on.
Yeah, and that is the thing as well, Mark, isn't it? I mean, you can look at you go back to February and you see the Bayern Munich game, and we're a last kick of the ball, ultimately away for taking a team who spend way more than, I mean, one of their players is probably more than our transfer budget, way above what anything we can dream of spending on any individual players. And we're ultimately one kick of a ball away for taking them to an extra time and really giving them food for thought in terms of whether we're going to go through or not. So when you look at that, to see what's happened now, and obviously Celtic then failed to qualify the following season, and they lose out to Kairat Almaty. As Alan talks about the failings of Celtic's hierarchy, but we also can't get away from the failings of the team and Brendan Rodgers there, because they ultimately failed in that tie. For me personally, that's probably the strongest I've seen Celtic going into one of these qualifiers. We weren't having to play like a near beat on at centre back and put square holes and square pegs and round holes to move people about. We had a strong enough squad that should have been capable of beating Kairat Almaty. Fundamental thing is they didn't. So, and that sometimes happens in football. The board have their feelings, and as Alan mentioned, in terms of not replacing the lads mentioned, like Kyogo, Nicholas Kuhn. These guys weren't replaced right away, and they didn't have players in their place. So when you look at all that measured in, and then you look at all this that's now transpired from it, it's not surprising that you've seen the drop. And that, by the way, we're just talking about February February this year. So it's not even like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. We're still in the actual same calendar year. That these things have all now they've topped and tailed the team from one side to the next, and it just shows you, mate, how quickly things can change. But if you don't do the work properly from the outside. Yeah,
definitely. I think it is a combination of a few things. I don't think the manager can escape criticism. Ultimately, the board cop most of the blame, but I think for one reason or another, he's not been the same, not had the same focus since Munich. I don't think he's had the same focus since January last year. And Munich was just the pinnacle of the combination of the Champions League run. I looked at the Munich team today, and at the 11 it started, we've still got 9 at the club that started that game. So Nicholas Kuhn and Schlupp have left. So I appreciate that Jota and Alistair Johnston are injured now. Ida and Yang were used as subs at Ida as away as well. So we've still got the nucleus of that team at the club. Now, I appreciate there's mitigating factors like unhappy players. I believe players are unhappy a lot of the time, and it's Celtic have got to manage that. Players leave Celtic instantly, the first offer that they get normally. I think we've kind of once done it with Matt O'Reilly to kind of keep the offer away with Atletico Madrid, but generally we can't really keep players at Celtic. So, however, it's still about the process and how these players have became unhappy. Not getting their move when they're promised, that's the process that needs to be explained. But we have added Negren, KT, Balikwisha, Tanetke, Iniacho, Sirachi, and then you've got your Shin, Inamuras, and Simpson Pussy to that 9 that started against Bayern Munich. So I'm not saying that the squad's any stronger than last season, but it's been filled up with players, and we've still got the nucleus of that team that competed at that level against Munich, and we've still got a good manager when he's tuned in. But for me, it is if he is going to stay tuned in. I think the line in the sand has been drawn, and I expect the team to kick on starting on Sunday with the new players and the new signings, and we've yet to see what a lot of them can contribute. By the way, so we've got to wait and see how these signings pan out. I thought the COVID window in paper was a great window, but it turned out a disaster. So you can't judge a transfer window until the players from it actually get to perform and see how they are. So I've got a bit of hope there to see how we do it. We've still got the best squad in the league and a squad that should be capable of having a decent run in the Europa League. Because again, there's experienced Champions League players in that squad and a manager that's good and gets paid a decent salary.
Yeah.
So it should, So the distractions aside, there shouldn't be any excuses in that respect, and we should be able to kick on. Obviously, not to the extent of the Champions League because we're out of it. But that's where I would try and separate things. The board are culpable for the processes, and the fans want to get answers on that side of things. It's the transfer strategy in preparation for the Champions League for me is the main crux, if you agree or disagree, because everything else seems to be taking care of itself. And I know there's other factors that we're not happy about and stuff like that, but that's the crux of it, is the preparation for Champions League qualifying games. But we are prepared for the season and maybe not as good as we could be. However, we need to see how these players pan out, and hopefully they get the full support and backing with the manager to give them every opportunity to do so. Because regardless of any situation, we don't want to lose this league. You can dress it up all you want. The fans might get the board out the power, but we don't want to go through the pain of another COVID season.
Yeah, I think that's also something to be mindful, Alan, isn't it? Obviously, COVID's a decent reminder as to what kind of pain Celtic fans could go through if there's a team in the park there, obviously, really suffering due to things that are happening upstairs and off the field and behind the scenes, etc. at the football club. But I think Mark's bang on as well, Alan. We have yet to see what Balikwisha is going to bring, what Tanetke is going to bring, what Sirachi is going to bring, what Ignacho's now going to bring to the team in terms of moving forward. And as Mark says, now that the transfer window's now closed, is it possible that we will now see a totally different focus here, and we see a Celtic back to right? We've still got a season to go for here, and I know it's not the Champions League, but we do have a European campaign that we need to go for as well, and also look at trying to still win the domestic trophies as we can.
Definitely, and I'm looking forward to Sunday to see certain individuals that obviously have just joined the club. I think you and I spoke about Balikwisha as well when we were watching the last game. He looked maybe a wee bit reserved, a wee bit nervous. I thought he maybe had a wee bit more in him. When he had that wee edge that he could have maybe took the man on and he would just step back a wee bit. So here's hoping that he's been with the club a wee bit longer now, settled in, and we can see the best. We're hoping that the likes of Tanetke, Iheanacho as well. It's not an ideal situation with the transfer window, but as you said, that window's shut now, so we need to deal with it, the players we've got here at present. So I think we should have enough with the manager that we've got. I think we should have enough quality there. We should be able to get us through a season domestically. it's not going to be easy. It's probably going to be slightly bumpy road at times. I don't think it's not as much depth as we maybe require, and maybe as we've had in the last couple of seasons. But it's exciting to see what these players that have come in can bring, because, as I've said a number of times, when we sign the majority of players that we do, you've no really got a kind of informed opinion about them. We can only kind of look up YouTube videos, we can look up Wikipedia, transfer market, and try and find out as much evidence as possible about them. So it is going to be exciting to see a few of these players. I think we might find out a wee bit more tomorrow with regards to what will be quite a press conference, I think, with regards to Dies and Maida. I hope that they've been able to have that chat, whether Maida's going to leave in January or the following summer. I would hope that he's going to be professional enough to kind of get his headspace in the right place and kind of knuckle down and show the kind of performances we know he's capable of. So, yeah, it is. Obviously, there's circumstances happening around with protests, etc., but we still own the park as well. We're hoping that the players are professional enough to go out. We definitely want to see a better performance than we've seen in the last few weeks. I think if we could put in a lot better performance, then the results obviously follow that. And I think I'm excited to see what, especially in Iheanacho. I would hope if Brendan could get him back to the level he was maybe at Leicester, Man City, I think we could have a player in our hands. It wasn't the ideal situation to bring in a free agent. I think that kind of really angered a few fans, but that is where it is now. If we can get him back to his best, I think we could have a player in our hands, and it'll be exciting to see how he gets on.
Yeah, absolutely. There seems to be a wee bit of an ongoing dispute and discussion happening in the comments. I've kind of took notice as we've been chatting here, lads. Obviously, a number of weeks back, I gave my view on the Celtic squad, and I said that I felt that the Celtic squad were stronger this season with the additions of Kieran Tierney and Benji Negrin. And, well, in all honesty, thanks to the Kairat game, I've now slightly changed my opinion on that, because these guys were part of that. And obviously, we went to Ibrox and never won as well. But that was my belief. And I had full belief in the team at the time for being able to go and beat Kairat. I think most Celtic fans might have, actually, if you ask yourself that question. And they gave me many reasons, Mark, to have that opinion, mate. Because, like Alan mentioned about Dies and Maida, hopefully his form can change. Guys like Callum McGregor, great leader for the club. Kieran Tierney, world-class left back. Okay, he might have an ongoing situation just now where he's not able to play that 90 minutes. However, he still shows elements of quality. He's put in a couple of good deliveries over pre-season to now. You look at the Newcastle game, great ball over for Big Scales' goal. He sets up one of Negrin's goals at Aberdeen. There's been one or two moments at Celtic Park where he's looked decent as well. And as I said, through the Kairat game and the Rangers game, they've now gave me cause for concern over the performance levels and just more or less where my head is, where their heads are at, really, in terms of, you talk about Maeda, Mark, you look at Dies in there. I know you've mentioned it before, mate. My question is will we see Maeda come back to his form? Will we see him, get his head in the right space? I know you said he has to, if, we believe he'd agreed a move away from the football club. He's probably not the only one. I would imagine we're coming to the end of cycles here. I don't want to start naming names, but everybody can think of the ones that have been with us for a number of time now. So it's now, that's where you need to be now in terms of this squad. And I think that's why there's elements of your fans, Mark, now a wee bit worried in terms of what Celtic are we going to see now? You touch on the COVID season. Are we going to see Celtic now? Windows closed, let's go, back to business, boom. Are we actually going to see, Celtic go to the COVID season and start dropping points here and getting out the cup against, I hope it's no Partick Thistle by any means, but, just along, I think you know where I'm going with that, don't you, in terms of, are we going to see that or are we going to see that? It's going to be one or the other.
Yeah. Well, first of all, just good on you for giving your opinion, big man, because that's what Fitba's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gave thousands of them over the years myself, and I've got more wrong than I'll ever get right. So that's
how I'm, by the way, that's how I'm sitting here with you, because I'm not going to be right all the time.
But what I admire about folk that gave their opinion and gave their substance to the opinion, and at the time you did, so you thought the squad was stronger. And I just mentioned there, 9 of the players that started against Bayern Munich are still at the club, albeit 1 or 2 are injured.
Yeah.
So that's a
and
team
that's why I said they've gave me evidence to think that they're capable a lot more.
So I've not said that if the squad's stronger or weaker yet. On paper and the feelings generally, they know that they're weaker because of the performances so far this season. But we can't write off the players that have not really kicked the ball for us yet and how they're going to come into the team and how they're going to perform. So any actual in paper is a better player than Adam either. So, but it's whether he recaptures his form, we can get him back to fitness, we can get his appetite back, similar to Scott Sinclair. And then you've got the situation where players, so believe it or not, in fit, but players lose form. They don't play great every season, every year. So we've got to manage that as well. It's not just the hierarchy and the manager, etc. That's what happens in football. So players go through forums, they go through spells, they have seasons of their lives, and then the next season they don't. So we've got to manage that along with it. However, what's happened with the team at the beginning of the season, and especially the qualifiers, is they've all been off. The manager's focus has not been there. Nady's been playing well. Possibly Scales has been playing well, but that's kind of where the squad is at the moment. And nothing against Scales, he's been excellent in that respect, and still is improving. But you're looking for our bigger players, your Hatatis, your Maedas, your Carter Vickers, to stand up in these games and really show their Champions League quality. And it's not happened. However, I would put it down to just maybe a few things that we might not know, and hopefully we're going to get answers to. But I can't really judge the squads going forward until we see these guys and what they're going to contribute to the team, what the kind of quality they can add. At least we've got the wide players in now. That was the major mistake in the summer for me. Wasn't it getting the wide players replaced, having to stay at qualifiers with James Forrest and Yang. That was the Rodgers systems rely heavily on the quality of wide player. So, but we've got 2 wingers in now, so they've got to get the opportunity to see if they can rejuvenate the side, give the team the spark back. I believe the slow, turgid football is because of the quality of the wide players. So we've got these guys in now. Hopefully they'll add that to the side and the system will become more fluent. As we know, the first 6 months of last season, it's very effective. It's very attacking. It's fast. Other teams struggle with it. But hopefully we can get back to that. So, and we've got the likes of Nygren, who started the season okay, probably better in the central roles that he's played so far. And yeah, we'll see how he goes as well. So, yeah, I don't think at the moment it's stronger than last season's team. But the one thing that I would remember, and I think we do forget, Brendan's got a history of improving players season on season. So Dyson Maida wasn't the same player he was at the beginning of last season. Matt O'Reilly the season before that wasn't the player that he finished the season. So he's got a good track record improving players, existing players at the club. So hopefully he can do that with 2 or 3 this year as well, along with the new signings.
Yeah, but I do agree with what Mark says there, Alan, in terms of players losing form. It can happen. We can see it taking a dip. But there'll be different reasons why certain individuals are moving. Like if Dyson's maybe wanting to move or whatever, that could have been affecting him. He's no long had a newborn baby. So there's a lot happened in Dyson's world recently in terms of, I think Dyson might have even thought at one point he was away. Now there's another player we don't even know what we're going to get out of now because he thought he was away in the window, which is Yang. He done a medical for Birmingham, had the Birmingham training kit on. There was a photo appeared to him as well at that. and then all of a sudden he's been in a training video a couple of days ago with Balikwisha and Ignacio at Celtic up at Lennoxtown. So these things have all happened really, really fast. So it's going to be interesting, Alan, to see what transpires for us in terms of, and how Celtic then come back to trying to find, I don't want to say trying to find form, because this is something else that I've not forgotten about. Mark mentioned it earlier, a small bit earlier, the fantastic start we've made to the season. We've got 10 points out of 12. We haven't conceded a goal in the league yet. We actually have made a fairly decent start to the season, but unfortunately it's been overshadowed by so many other issues surrounding the club. But it'll be interesting to see, probably performance-wise, is what we're looking to change in terms of the way Celtic have been. They've not been kind of free-flowing the last few games, especially the last game, because that was as flat as a dodo. But looking ahead, I think, Alan, it's going to look interesting to see what that's going to have in store for us.
Yeah, we can only be positive now because we're in this position. We've got these players, but I think we're looking at, in context, it has been a good start domestically to the season, unbeaten, no goals conceded in the league, etc. We're qualified for the next round of the cup, but I can't pick any of the performances out that you go, that was a really, really good performance. You look at even the St Mirren game, we dominated possession in most of these games, but we left it a kind of deflected goal at the 87th minute. I think the first half hour against Aberdeen was really lacklustre. We maybe kicked into gear a bit after that, but there's not really been any complete performance. And where I see the issue being there is that I don't necessarily see its form. I think the way we're playing just now, Mark says we rely on these wing players. We need creativity. I think we're lacking that cutting edge. When you look at players we maybe had last season, right? Jota's out injured. Nicholas Kuhn left. Kyogo left last January. Right, but see these players, these three players I mentioned, they're three players that can turn a game in a heartbeat. They're three players that you would expect, right? They can offer you that cutting edge, that's something special. I'm looking through the team just now, and as I say, we still need to wait and judge kind of the likes of Tenetsky, Balikwisha, Iheanacho, etc. So there's still a long time for us to kind of watch them and see how they get on. But at the minute, with the players that we've got, that we know what they can do, there's nobody that's really up to that kind of cutting edge that maybe Kyogo, Jota and Kuhn had. We're hoping that these players we've brought in are going to step up to that level. We all hope that. But at the minute, I think that's how our performance has been pretty flat, pretty lacklustre for most of the season. I think it's because we've not had that kind of creativity, that tempo, that cutting edge. That's somebody special that could just change a game. So only time will tell. I just hope that the players that's been brought in the last kind of week in the transfer window, hopefully they can step up to the mark and offer that bit of creativity and offer that bit of kind of cutting edge.
Yeah. Mark, do you think with this break now, obviously international break, and some of our players were away, but quite a bit of the squad stayed, do you think we could see a similarity to Brendan's first season with the football club and the first time he was here? When we got to that mid-season, I think we were unbeaten for so long, and then we get to January, and we do a mini pre-season in Dubai where Brendan just totally changes the whole team. I think he makes 9 changes for the cup game, and then at least 6 of them remain in the team, like Boyata. He was an example. Stuart Armstrong was another one that came into the side. And then there was this rumour going about at the time that they had played a bounce game in Dubai where the Celtic 11 played the next Celtic 11. And the first Celtic 11 that had started that season and done really, really well, they actually got a doing in the game. And that's what gave Brendan the food for thought in order to change. So do you think maybe with this time, with what's just happened, Brendan could maybe look at doing something similar? Because he showed before he's no fear in doing it.
Yeah, I think he'll as I said, the line in the sand's drawn now with the transfer window closing, and he's got to move forward to the team. So this effectively could be his last season, and irrespective of everything that's going on, even if he has lost his appetite a bit with regards to what he's doing, he'll still not want to leave his reputation in tatters with having a really poor season, and the worst case being that they don't win the league. So he'll be concocting what his best system is to go with these players, which will probably be the system that he's got. That's why the wide players have come in. And he needs to rejuvenate Iniacho and get the guys existing at the club motivated again. So that's what you do. Good managers do that. They create a different narrative. They create incentives. So for Dyson in particular, if he does want his big move, he'll need to continue to play well. So he can't go in a huff and be at the team for 4 months and expect these teams to go back in from in January. So, and he's got the World Cup next year as well. So you'll know what to jeopardise his place. So that's the way that you motivate these players. And at the end of the day, Celtic gave these guys new contracts. They didn't need to sign them. So, and I appreciate it's not great the way it's worked out over the summer, but they're still Celtic players. We've put them in the position that these clubs want them as well. So if they want to continue that, then they've got to knuckle down and play for their wage. But play well if they want to get their move, if that's what their dream is, if that's what their ambition is. So, and maybe this might be a season, I know you likened it to a few years ago, but maybe Brendan's first season back, when it was quite all over the place for probably the first 2/3 of the season, with a lot of injuries, a lot of disruptions, and it might be the same this year. But then come Christmas time, if we get Jota back, Alistair Johnson back, we can reinforce in January. It's still a lot of the season left to play. I think from now till January, we only play Rangers at the beginning of January, so we don't have any games against them until the transfer window. The Europa League, I think the majority are kind of on paper better games are up until January as well. The two tougher ones are in January. So we could actually strengthen as we go, get through this period, and if we can get through it well with the squad that we've got, and then strengthen with players, or just get players retuned in to the focus in the season ahead. And the Europa League might give them an opportunity to go a bit further than they normally do in the Champions League, and give a bit of aspiration, a bit of incentive to the squad to see if they can prove it. Plus, they're in the same tournament as their rivals, so they only want to look worse than their rivals. But for me, there's a lot on the manager, regardless if it is his last season or not. So, he wants to protect his reputation. So the only way he can do that is by getting this team playing well and winning things.
Is there a way, Alan, for things to change, in a positive way, that, Brendan might turn around and want to stay at the football club beyond the season, depending on what happens with the outcome of this fan movement and things that are happening maybe upstairs?
No, can't see it whatsoever. I think I've resigned myself to kind of Brendan leaving, and I think he's probably the highest calibre of manager that we can attract, because his association with the club and his support for the club when he was younger. So I've resigned myself to the fact I think Brendan's leaving. I think the way he's been treated, he's not covered his self-glory with the Champions League qualifier. I agree with yourself there, JP, that we should have had enough to negotiate that tie. The players and the manager should have done a lot better, but I think the way that Brendan's been treated, especially when he's come out a few times publicly, and especially the one that he's come out and says we can't sell either or any striker until we bring somebody in. The board's basically just done it anyway, and then we've had to kind of dig into the free agent market. So I can't see any world where Brendan stays at Celtic next year. I think hopefully we win the league this year, do relatively well in the Europa League, and hopefully pick up a cup or two, and then just thank Brendan for his time at Celtic. But I honestly, I hope I'm wrong, but honestly can't see a world where Brendan Rodgers is the manager of Celtic this time next year.
Mark, what about yourself? Same question, mate.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Who knows what can happen this season on the park and off the park. So I wouldn't write anything off. I believe that he wants to stay. I believe that he wants to stay longer. But I think the circumstances have to be right for him to do so. And at this moment in time, I don't think they are. However, who knows what can happen in 6 months? Who knows if we do get a really good run in the Europa League, it whets his appetite again. Remember, as I said earlier on, he develops a few players this season. It makes the squad better than last season because he develops players. That's what he does. So, as I said, Matt O'Reilly wasn't a £30 million player when he first came back to the club. He made him a £30 million player in one season. He done the same with Daizen Maeda last season, £25 million player. He wasn't a £25 million player at the beginning of the season. So we've got to wait and see. And I think, it's early days. I think Rodgers personally wants to stay in Glasgow for a few more years. But the circumstances have got to be right. So we've got to see if that will be the case.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for myself to really. I can hear both sides of the coin, and I understand what Alan's saying as well there in terms of it's kind of hard to visualise a world that he remains. But then I go back to his comments just about a fortnight ago when he tells us that there's no disharmony and there's no disconnect. He's got a great relationship with people, and then you see everything else that's transpired, and you kind of go, well, surely you think to yourself, surely if you were in that, if talking to yourself as an individual and just saying, surely if you were in that moment, what would you be doing? What would you be saying? What's the kind of things you would be? And ultimately, that's what we're doing. I mean, we're talking to ourselves about this because Brendan's, he's telling us one thing, and then depending on how his day is that day, I think his demeanour changes for the next day. So, no, Stephen, he's no. That's the thing, he's no. And I've seen a few people say that. He's no just got to sit there and say that because Big Ange wouldn't just sit there and say that if it wasn't true. So these managers have
calculated and smart, and with
these managers have got. I know, Alan, but he's been different this time around for the first time as well, because you look at all that with the way before KT was at the club, and he had a go at people for singing KT's name, and Greg Taylor was still at the football club. You wouldn't see that. You wouldn't see Brendan doing that like prior. And then his comments regarding no wearing a jumper or no wearing a tie, or you know, Brendan would normally not get caught up and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering as to why would he have to say? I get the side of things that he could be frustrated, fair enough, but why would he have to sit and say? He doesn't have to, by the way, because I tell you what, I'm my main guy. I wouldn't just sit there and say, "Aye, everything's fine," by the way, just because he thinks that's what the Celtic fans want to hear. Because Big Ange wouldn't stand for it, and he was quick to jump on media when the guy tried to more or less make out that he worked at a lesser level than here. The very first interview he ever done at Celtic. And he was quick to say, well, I'm not a novice, so don't sit there and try and talk to me like one either. And so I don't buy that he has to sit there and sort of say, you know, I don't think he does. I think I can see what Mark's saying as well. I can see the other side of that I personally think he wants to be at Celtic. I don't think he wants to move on, but I think there's a mitigating circumstances as what would keep him here. And it'll just remain to see what's going to happen in terms of this fan movement now and what changes are going to happen now surrounding the football club, because I don't know if Brendan will now distance himself from that, because his presser could be about 2 hours tomorrow, depending on what's spoke to him about, what he's asked. And that's the thing. I've heard guys like Paul John Dykes and other boys on other channels, and they've actually said that you know, things are calculated in there. So they're not allowed to ask certain questions, and for me that isn't right either, because you know, we need that. We want some answers to the people that are outside, not knowing what's going on and not having any clarity or transparency. But obviously, Alan, touching on the game on Sunday, mate, what's your thoughts? Domestic action coming back. We're away to Kilmarnock, mate. It's usually always a tricky tie for us. Kilmarnock have started quite well. I think they're unbeaten as well, aren't they? Not that they've won every game, but I think they've made an unbeaten start. My memory serves me right. Yeah. and obviously under a new manager and Stuart Kettlewell, who I keep saying that he looks like David De Gea. With a hairstyle and stuff like that. So, but in terms of your own thoughts on that, mate, what you suspecting on Sunday?
It's always a difficult match. Obviously, away to Kilmarnock, you've got a difficult surface to deal with as well. Glad that's been announced that next year that's back to grass. But they're always a strong kind of physical side as well. I think you look at the boy they're signed up front, is 6'9" or something.
Yeah.
His eyes.
Is that the boy Daniels?
I can't mind his name. I know they always kind of sign a big lad up front anyway, but they're always quite a physical side. Stuart Kettlewell as well. They were kind of when he was with Motherwell, wasn't it? You're looking at had his teams pretty well organised. I think it was a bit of fan pressure that made him leave there, but he was actually doing a pretty good job there as well, wasn't he? As if they were anywhere near kind of relegation or anything. So I think they will be well organised, hard to break down, pretty physical. I would expect a Celtic kind of play a couple of new signings as a minimum. I think that we should have enough to kind of negotiate the game. I think we should have enough to win the game. I'm not saying that it's got to be easy, but I think if we've got aspirations to kind of dominating domestically again, I think winning at Rugby Park's usually one of the games you would look upon that we need to kind of achieve 3 points. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it'll be an easy match, but I think we will get 3 points.
Yeah, Mark, obviously, feels as if we've waited weeks. It has been a couple of weeks, but it feels as if we've waited longer since we played Rangers at Ibrox, mate, for the next kind of domestic game. And obviously, your own thoughts going into Killie on Sunday, mate?
Yeah, it feels like it's been another pre-season, innit? But I'm glad we're back. But then there's just a lot of play in it, on the park and off the park. It's not one of Brendan's favourite away grounds. He's had troubles down there. But Kilmarnock are under Kettlewell now. They have been undefeated. I've seen one of the players mouthing off today as well about how he's going to beat us on Saturday, even though the game's on Sunday.
It was funny as man. I put that on Twitter. I says, if somebody better, I don't want to be that guy, but somebody better tell me game's on Sunday.
Yeah. So, but hopefully not that we should need that to be inspired to go and beat Kilmarnock. But it is a tough venue, and with everything that's happening, I just I expect a decent performance. I want to see a reaction for the players, especially after the Almaty game and the flat Rangers performance. So, and a couple of new players coming into the side, hopefully it can inject a bit of pace and intensity that the squad's been missing. And we get a good victory, hopefully a 2-0, 2 or 3-0 emphatic victory would be nice, just to kind of put everything to bed on the park and get this squad back. Just continuing in its good start in Hearts v Rangers on Saturday. So we'll see the outcome of that to potentially, increase our lead at the top. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad it's kind of back to the fitba in that respect. And I'm excited to see some of the new players and see how they bed in, especially I thought Balikwisha was all right at Ibrox. I appreciate that he was a bit tentative when he got his 1-on-1s and all that, but he actually looked okay in the ball. He looked composed, and I've seen far better players than him no kick a ball at Ibrox and their debuts and just in their time at Celtic. So, but this is where we need players like him to come in and make an immediate impact and show their quality that hopefully we can use. But yeah, I expect us to win. But it's a few interesting things to unfold for the game, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And quick fire. So obviously, Alan, I'll go with you first, mate. In terms of your lineup, mate, where do you think the team will be?
Jesus.
No, he's not playing, mate.
I know.
He's injured now for Arsenal.
Aye. I think so, depending on a lot of kind of fitness as well. You look at KT and Ralston, we'll need to find out tomorrow if they're fit. I would think they are going to be fit. So I'll go on the basis that they two are fit. I think it will be Casper, Ralston, Carter Vickers, Scales, KT. I think it'll be Cal McGregor, Will Tati and Negrin. Tenetsky, Balawisha and Dyson Maida.
Okay. Mark, yourself?
Same team, but instead of Ralston, I think he'll start Donovan. Just with injury, maybe just an opportunity to get the boy in. And possibly Forrest on the right to start with, Taneki just coming into the team. So, but same team.
Okay. I think it'll be Casper, Donovan, Murray, Scales and Tierney. I don't think he'll play CCV. He's had his troubles on that pitch before as well and doesn't really play a lot of games when we go down there. I know he played the game we won 5-0 to secure the league in Brendan's first season back, but I don't think he'll play CCV. He's also had worries regarding the USA, wasn't he picked due to a scan or something I read that was to do with about his ankle. So apparently before they go away with the USA, it's part of their protocol now that players have scans. This is why Trusty wasn't selected either, because of this problem he's had that's been picked up with Celtic. So I think that'll be the back four. I think in midfield will be the exact same as you have picked there. I think it'll be McGregor, Hattati and Negrin. And I think it's going to be Balikwisha, Taneki and Ignacio. I think Ignacio will start the game or not. I think he'll start him. I don't think he'll.
Says about Maida tomorrow. I think that's that. I think he'd probably prefer no to throw Ignacio directly in. But if Brendan could manage to get Dyson back on kind of level he did, get his in the right place, in the right mind frame, I think you play him up front. But you could be right. We don't know until tomorrow what the conversation's been between Dyson and Brendan. I think that's going to be massive to tell what the starting lineup is on Sunday.
Another one as well that's floating around my head is the fact that KT's fitness as well. So he might not even start him. He might play Sriracha. He has been training well with the group as well for a bit of third. So he might not start KT because he's...
We've spoke about it, JP, that obviously Kieran Taylor's maybe finished a good few games into the season. He's not finished the 90 minutes yet. Are we having one of our best players, and because it's a plastic pitch, you can't play? I know it might be a worry because of his injuries, but I would still want our best players like Carter Vickers and KT to be able to play in the kind of surfaces.
I hear what you're saying. But there is that ultimate worry that, Simunovic's going to play on the pitches when we had him, and he was one of the mainstays in Rodgers' first spell. So my only thoughts there is because Carter Vickers, when you look back, go and look at all the games we've played down there, Carter Vickers doesn't start a lot of them.
Oh, you could be right. It'll be interesting to see. I think a lot of different Celtic fans will have a lot of different kind of predictions for starting lineups because it is dependent on that pitch as well. But we'll see what happens anyway. But hopefully we get a good performance and a good result, and everybody will be happy. Yeah,
100%. On you go, Mark.
Sorry, is there no 3 plastic pitches in the league this year?
There is. Livingston, Kilmarnock and Falkirk, I believe.
Yeah. So there'll be a minimum of 9 games. No. No. So 3 twice. 6, a minimum of 6 games. No, it might not even be that because sometimes we'll have
depending on who finishes in the top half.
So probably 4 or 5 games you would guess is an average that we're going to be playing in plastic.
Dyson played for Japan yesterday as well, so that might be a factor in his game time. That's
why I didn't pick him to start, and as well, that's why I picked Ignacio because I know he's just that. But then that's Dyson we're talking about. He just plugs his cell in, and he's good to go in 24 hours. So
he used to.
He used to. So far, he's no showed us that this season. But I just hope we can screw the heat. I really do. But my thoughts are that the squad could change. Quite a few. We've not even seen Simpson Puzet, and he's been left out of the Europa squad as well. So he's another one that could potentially come into the team out of the blue. with the way things are going, I don't think anything will come as a shock to us, because Brendan will. He's that type of manager. I listened to Scott Brown on Charlie Mulgrew's podcast for the golf, and that's what Bruni says. Brendan will try any avenue at all he can to get a spark. He will try things, and he's no frightened to do it. If he thinks you're good enough, he'll put you in. Doesn't matter how young you are or whatever. If he thinks, like say, young KT is good enough to come in, then he'll put him in. If he thinks Dane Murray's good enough, Donovan, for that matter, if Brendan thinks you are good enough, he'll do it. He's no fear to do it. And he doesn't care about that's what Bruni was saying, he doesn't care about the backlash. That's not what he's there for. He's all about the individuals and try to, like as Mark mentioned earlier, folks, he's trying to develop players on and make people better and believe in themselves. So, yeah, we'll just need to wait and see what happens. But obviously, keep an eye on the social media. That's all I can say, because obviously, going now, there's going to be significant movement with the Celtic fans and things that will be happening. We'll do our best to keep you updated on through the channel. Tonight, obviously, it's been a pleasure, Mark, for getting you back on, mate, getting your thoughts and having a wee chat as well.
Thanks, JP. No, it's always great to be on. Always grateful, great show just to talk about Celtic, and plenty to talk about at the moment, isn't there?
There's never a dull moment, mate. I keep saying it. I always go back to it. There's never a dull moment. Obviously, yourself, Alan, it's good to see you. Good to get a wee chat, mate. It's good to see you smiling as well.
Oh, I was smiling at that. Even if I'm having a rant, I'll still smile. So, great. But it's no. Even I feel right. I feel strongly about how the fan movement's gone forward. I think that we need change. There needs to be action, but. I know people want to hear about it, but it's still, you don't want to always talk about it. We didn't want to come into this season. At the end of last season, we were feeling in a great place. We didn't want to come into it this way. We should be coming into that with a great transfer window and be feeling absolutely smashing and so confident and everything's rosy at the club. That's the way it should have been, but sadly that's not been the case. So hopefully we can get football back kind of on Sunday. Get a good performance, and I'll be smiling as usual, and we'll go forward with it. But thanks everybody for watching.
Big Marvin for a scheme. Happy as Larry.
Not be happier.
But as Alan says, folks, thank you to you across the platforms who have tuned in with us on the Thursday night. Cheers for your time. Cheers for all your comments. We'll see you all again in the next one. Take care. Hail, hail. Bye-bye.
Hello.
Cheers.
Sets up Larson here. Larson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly, how about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!